what I was getting at before are these feelings that we have about, I did wrong, I really should try to correct that. Or I really need to decide whether I'm going to be interviewed by Walter or not. I didn't have to decide that, because really it's a privilege to have this chat with you, because you're very familiar with my work. You've not just read it, but you've listened to me read it in the audiobook. It's great to speak with someone who already knows where I'm coming from, because I've had some interviews where, well, I just turned this guy down. He asked to interview me, and I said, why do you want to interview me? He said, well, you've written a book. And I said, have you read the book? He said, no. And I said, well, read the book, and then maybe we'll do an interview. See, I'm not interested in promoting my book. That's what I mean. There are these influencers, they call themselves, who they just think anybody who writes a book is ready to be a whore. You know, just come on my show. I don't know anything about it, but you'll get a chance to flog your book. No, that's not where I'm coming from. See, okay. So you can't choose to understand what you don't understand. You either get it or you don't. This is something I've said a lot. You get what you get when you get it. You can't jump ahead. It's not like a game of Monopoly where somebody picks up your piece and moves it ahead on the board 10 spaces or something. You go to the spiritual teacher and he says, oh, you're here in this state of confusion. I'll just pick you up, and here's this square. I'll explain it, what it's like over here, and I'll put you down there and you'll be okay. No, you have to suffer your life, as Walter was saying, bite by bite. That's how you gain wisdom, through suffering, through trying to swallow shit that's hard to swallow. Hard to swallow. Like you asked about psychotherapy before. I practiced psychotherapy for a long time. I consider myself awake. But if some catastrophe happened in my life and I found myself not dealing well with it, I would find a psychotherapist, and I go to that person. I'd say, I'm having a bad time with this. My wife just died and I don't know what to do. I'm lost. And sure, some sympathetic person who knows how to speak about these matters, I would access that in a minute. I don't think I've got all the answers, not even to my own problems. It's humility that's missing. Real humility. I don't mean put on humility. Oh, shucks, nothing. I don't mean that. I mean the real humility. Epistemological humility. You realize that you don't know things that are important, and you have no way of finding them out. You can't find them out by going to the spiritual teacher. How do you know that he or she is correct? Oh, you take it on faith? Well, where's the faith come from? You know, you see, that's a vicious circle. You can't really trust anybody to explain how things are, because if you do, you're only going on your own feelings that this person is qualified to teach you. And so it all comes down to you. It's what you think is qualified, what you think is, as I said, some people think that the evangelical preacher is speaking the words they need to hear. I find that impossibly deluded, but I can't decide that for the next person. And that person is not likely to come to someone like me for advice anyway. So you see, it's all you. It's all you. And this is very frightening to people, Walter. It's when I've gone into this personally, I would say with 20 or 30 people when I was doing the spiritual teaching bit. And this is where they always stop you. They won't go, this is the borderline which they will not cross, that there is no authority, none. It's a scary, scary world. There are lots of questions and no answers. No final answers to what does it all mean? What happens when you die? None of that. There are no answers. Well, there's a lot of answers, but they're all bullshit. So that this is the place where most people get off the bus. Most spiritual people get off the bus. When I tell them, why do you come to me? I'm no expert. I'm giving you my point of view. If that loosens the laces for you, great. I hope it does, but you're still going to leave here baffled by your own being. I'm baffled by mine. So how can I teach you anything? You see, that's humility, not a put on humility. I think I'm a bright guy. I'm worth listening to. It's not that kind of humility. Oh, shucks, you know. No, it's the actual humility where you understand that you don't really know anything for sure. All that I know for sure, and even that I could be wrong, is that I seem to exist as a center of awareness in some sense. But even that could be a delusion. As far as the answers to these big questions, I have no answers, none. And some people, I think, are attracted to that point of view. I've had a few people who actually got it, and they're still friends. I hear from them, and some have come to visit me. But mostly people don't want to really hear what I'm saying. They really don't.
It's beautiful the way that you question authority, and so much of this book is really about critical thinking.
Mhm.
Because but this presence, this isness, this suchness seems to be the same suchness. There's no separate suchness. So therefore, there's no authority. And if somebody has authority, I've given it to them. So really, I'm the authority because I chose to listen to Shri whoever and put him on a pedestal. I did that. So I'm the authority, making this person some kind of authority. But nobody ultimately has any authority. Nobody knows anything about ultimate matters, as you said. And I've heard you quote Dogen, I think, who said, don't put someone else's head on top of your own.
That's right. And I love what you've just said. I really do. That's the way I see it exactly. You don't, if you think Robert is worth hearing, it's because you think that. The next person is going to listen to Robert and start a Twitter page saying Robert is out of his mind. I have that. I've got my detractors, and they're angry and frightened by me. It's amazing, but you know, there it is. This is what I was telling you. I'm not scary. I'm really not. I never hurt people. But the idea that no one is in control of anything is scary.
Yes. And all that is, yeah, it can only be a projection. If someone's afraid of you, or they think you're a cuddly teddy bear, that again comes from them. Robert's just Robert. I was going to ask you about suchness, but I feel like we'll get into a whole nother thing because you use that word suchness.
Yeah, the suchness is a pretty old word. It's in Zen for sure. It just means things as they are have a certain quality that can't be defined, but it's here. This moment is different from any other. It's not repeatable. It has its suchness, and the next moment has a different suchness, and nothing can be repeated. Nothing. I had a cup of coffee this morning, and it was great. I really enjoyed it, but I can never have that cup of coffee again. I can make another cup of coffee, but it won't taste exactly the same. And certainly the ideas in my mind while I'm drinking the coffee can't be the same. So
it's like you can't step in the same river twice.
Yeah.
I think and that's from you use that quote in your book as well.
Yeah, that's a good one. you can't step in the same river twice. That's right. And see, in that sense, there's no myself, because the myself of this minute is not there anymore in the next minute. So that's the no self is not that there's no act, is not that there's not an experience and someone who may be able to intervene in the experience. That's an open question, what we touched on. But there's no myself that persists through time. Each moment has its suchness, and the myself in the next moment, well, I've been altered by this conversation, you see. So who I was an hour and a half ago, I can't go back to that. Whatever I've gleaned from hearing your wisdom, it's now incorporated into my mind. And I'm a different Robert than before I spoke with you, because I listened to what you're saying. You see, that's
Same here, Robert. Yeah.
okay. Well, see, that's what exactly, and that's what we have to give one another, not some teacher up on a throne. We've got to, I think we've done enough of that. History needs to change now. That's so 20th century. Let's get over that one now. We're all on the same road. We're all pilgrims, whether we know it or not.